The courtroom was cold, not just temperature-wise, though the air conditioning hummed relentlessly, but cold in that sterile, institutional way that makes you feel like you're already guilty of something. I sat at the defendant's table, hands folded neatly in my lap, eyes forward, calm, quiet, exactly how I needed to appear. My name is Nancy Reeves. And the man currently telling a judge that I'm mentally incompetent? That's Marcus Holloway, my stepfather. Let me back up. My real father died when I was 16, heart attack, sudden, devastating. He was a good man, an accountant who worked long hours but never missed my school plays or parent-teacher conferences. He taught me to balance a checkbook before I learned to drive. He left me a trust fund. Not millions, but enough to pay for college and give me a head start in life. 2 years after he died, my mother remarried. Marcus Holloway was everything my father wasn't. Loud, flashy, always talking about deals, connections, and opportunities. He ran a mid-sized consulting firm and drove a Porsche he couldn't quite afford. My mother was lonely, vulnerable, and Marcus knew exactly how to fill that void. I was 18 when they married. I moved out for college shortly after and kept my distance. I was polite at family dinners, sent birthday cards, but I never let Marcus into my life. He didn't like that. Over the years, Marcus's business struggled. He borrowed heavily, made bad investments, and spent money he didn't have trying to look successful. My mother enabled him, defended him, even when the cracks started to show. Meanwhile, I built my own life. I graduated summa cum laude with degrees in finance and accounting. I worked at a Big Four firm for 5 years, then co-founded Vanguard Holdings, a forensic accounting and investment firm specializing in distressed assets and corporate debt recovery. Translation? I buy failing companies' debts, restructure them, and either turn them around or liquidate them for profit. I'm very good at what I do. By 32, I was CEO. By 34, I was managing a portfolio worth over $60 million. And I did it all quietly. No press, no social media boasting, just results. Marcus had no idea. To him, I was still the awkward stepdaughter who avoided family gatherings and worked some boring office job. My mother never corrected him. She didn't understand what I did either. That ignorance became his fatal mistake. 6 months ago, Marcus's firm, Holloway Consulting Group, missed a major loan payment. The creditor was preparing to foreclose. Marcus was desperate. He came to me. "Nancy," he said over the phone, voice tight. "I need a favor, a business loan, just short term, $50,000. I'll pay you back in 6 months." I paused. "Why me?" "Because you're family, and because I know your father left you money." There it was, the entitlement, the assumption that I owed him something. I could have said no, should have, probably, but I didn't. Instead, I said, "Let me review your financials first." He sent them over, and what I saw was worse than I expected. Holloway Consulting was drowning, missed payroll, vendor lawsuits, unpaid rent. The $50,000 wouldn't save him, it would barely buy him another month. But it gave me an idea. I didn't loan him $50,000. I bought his debt, all of it. Through a subsidiary of Vanguard Holdings, I purchased the outstanding loans from his creditors, over $340,000 worth. I also acquired the lease on his office building through a shell company. Then I extended him a consolidated loan of $400,000 at a low interest rate, with one very specific clause buried in the contract. Any attempt to defame, slander, or legally challenge the lender or any affiliated party constitutes an immediate default, triggering full repayment within 30 days. Marcus signed without reading it. He thought I was just his naive stepdaughter helping out family. He had no idea I'd just become his largest creditor. For a while, things were quiet. Marcus used the money to pay off his immediate debts and buy himself some breathing room. He even bought a new car, a Tesla this time, and started talking about turning things around. But the underlying problems didn't go away. His business model was broken, his reputation was damaged, clients were leaving, and Marcus, true to form, started looking for someone to blame. He started with my mother. If you hadn't insisted on that kitchen remodel, I'd have more capital, he'd snap during family dinners. Then he turned to former employees. They sabotaged me, stole clients, I should sue. And eventually, inevitably, he turned to me. It started small, passive-aggressive comments. Must be nice to have a trust fund and not worry about real business risk. Nancy never understood ambition. That's why she works for someone else. I didn't work for anyone. I was the CEO, but I didn't correct him. Then, 3 months ago, Marcus escalated. He filed a petition for conservatorship. His claim? That I was mentally unstable, incapable of managing my own affairs, and that as my stepfather, he had a duty to protect me and my assets. The petition cited my reclusiveness, my lack of social engagement, and my erratic financial behavior, which apparently meant living modestly despite having money. It was absurd, offensive, and legally incredibly stupid. But Marcus didn't know that yet. My lawyer called me the day the petition was filed. Nancy, this is insane. We can get this dismissed in 5 minutes. No, I said calmly. Let it go to court. Why? Because I want him to say everything he's thinking, on the record, in front of a judge. She hesitated. You're setting a trap. Yes. And you're sure? I smiled. Absolutely. So here we are. Courtroom 4B, family court, Judge Helena Marsh presiding. Marcus sat across the aisle with his lawyer, a guy in an ill-fitting suit who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. My mother sat behind him, pale and nervous. She'd tried to call me twice before the hearing. I didn't answer. The judge entered, and we all stood. She was in her early 60s, sharp-eyed, with silver hair pulled into a tight bun. She looked like someone who didn't tolerate nonsense. Good. Mr. Holloway, Judge Marsh began, you've petitioned for conservatorship over Ms. Nancy Reeves. Please present your case. Marcus stood, adjusting his tie. He loved an audience. Your Honor, thank you. This is difficult for me. Nancy is family, but I have a responsibility to act when I see someone I care about struggling. I kept my face neutral. Nancy has become increasingly isolated, Marcus continued. She rarely attends family events, she lives alone, she has no social life, and despite having significant financial resources, she lives like someone who doesn't understand money. Judge Marsh raised an eyebrow. Living modestly is evidence of incompetence, Marcus faltered. Not incompetence, Your Honor, instability. She refuses help, refuses guidance. I'm concerned she's being taken advantage of, or worse, that she'll make decisions that harm herself. Has Ms. Reeves missed bill payments? Defaulted on obligations? Well, no. Has she been hospitalized? Diagnosed with any condition? Not officially, but then what evidence do you have, Mr. Holloway? Marcus's jaw tightened. Your Honor, I know my stepdaughter. Something is wrong, and as her family, I have a duty. You have a duty, Judge Marsh interrupted coolly, to present evidence. Do you have any? Marcus looked at his lawyer, who shuffled papers nervously. We have testimony, character witnesses. Proceed. And that's when Marcus made his first real mistake. He started talking, and he didn't stop. Marcus's character witnesses were a parade of irrelevance. First up was my mother. She looked miserable as she took the stand, avoiding eye contact with me entirely. Mrs. Holloway, Marcus's lawyer began gently, can you describe Nancy's behavior over the past few years? My mother's voice was quiet. She's distant. She doesn't visit much, doesn't call. I worry about her. Does she seem unstable to you? I don't know. She's just different, quiet. Judge Marsh leaned forward. Mrs. Holloway, has Nancy ever threatened you, harmed herself, shown signs of delusion or impaired judgment? My mother hesitated. No. Then what concerns you? She doesn't need us anymore. The judge's expression didn't change. but I saw the flicker of understanding in her eyes. This wasn't about my well-being, it was about control. Next, Marcus called a former colleague from my Big Four days, someone I barely remembered. He testified that I was intense and kept to myself. Judge Marsh looked unimpressed. So she was professional and focused? Well, yes. Thank you. Next. Marcus was getting frustrated. I could see it in the way he shifted in his seat, the tight set of his jaw. Finally, he took the stand himself. And that's when things got interesting. Mr. Holloway, his lawyer prompted, please explain why you believe conservatorship is necessary. Marcus took a deep breath as if this pained him. Your Honor, Nancy inherited money from her father, a significant amount, but she doesn't understand how to manage it. She lives in a tiny apartment, drives an old car. She dresses like... He caught himself. She doesn't present herself well. So you're concerned about her wardrobe? Judge Marsh asked dryly. I'm concerned she's wasting her inheritance, that she's vulnerable. To whom? To anyone. Scammers, bad advisors. She doesn't have the experience to... Mr. Holloway, the judge interrupted. What is Ms. Reeves's current occupation? Marcus blinked. She works at some financial firm. An analyst, I think. Judge Marsh looked at me. Ms. Reeves, is that accurate? I stood. No, Your Honor. What is your occupation? I'm the CEO and majority shareholder of Vanguard Holdings, a forensic accounting and investment firm. The courtroom went silent. Marcus stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Judge Marsh nodded slowly. And how long have you held that position? 6 years, Your Honor. What is the firm's current asset portfolio? Approximately $63 million. Marcus's face went pale. His lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Judge Marsh turned back to Marcus. Mr. Holloway, you were saying Ms. Reeves doesn't understand money? Marcus stammered. I didn't know. She never told me. Did you ask? Silence. Let me be clear, Judge Marsh said, her tone sharp now. You filed for conservatorship over a woman who runs a multi-million-dollar company, a woman with no history of mental illness, no financial instability, and no legal violations. Why? Marcus's composure cracked. Because she refuses to help her family. She has all this money and she hoards it. She lets us struggle while she sits on millions. There it was, the truth. So, this is about access to her money, Judge Marsh said flatly. No, it's about, she owes us. My wife supported her after her father died. We took her in. I was 18, I said quietly. I moved out for college. You ungrateful... Marcus caught himself, but it was too late. Judge Marsh's eyes narrowed. Mr. Holloway, control yourself. But Marcus couldn't. The mask was off now. Your Honor, she's an embarrassment. She has everything and does nothing. She hides away like some hermit while the family that raised her falls apart. She could help. She could save my business. But she's selfish. Cold. Your business? Judge Marsh repeated. Yes, Holloway Consulting. I've worked for 20 years to build it, and it's failing because of poor management, I said calmly. Marcus whipped around to glare at me. What did you say? I stood. Your Honor, may I approach? Judge Marsh nodded. I walked forward and handed a folder to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. Your Honor, I began. 6 months ago, Marcus Holloway came to me requesting a loan. I reviewed his financial records and determined that his business was insolvent. Rather than loan him money directly, I purchased his outstanding debts from multiple creditors and consolidated them into a single loan agreement. Marcus's lawyer shot to his feet. Objection. Relevance? Judge Marsh held up a hand. I'll allow it. Continue, Ms. Reeves. The loan agreement included a standard default clause. Any attempt to defame, slander, or legally challenge the lender triggers immediate full repayment. Mr. Holloway signed that agreement. He is currently in breach. The judge opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the documents. Marcus's face turned red. She tricked me. You signed a legal contract, I said evenly, without reading it. You're my stepdaughter. You trusted I was too naive to protect myself. You were wrong. Judge Marsh looked up. Ms. Reeves, are you stating that you are Mr. Holloway's creditor? Yes, Your Honor. I own $340,000 in debt. I also own the lease to his office building, and as of this hearing, he is in default. Marcus lunged toward me. You conniving little... Bailiff stepped forward. Marcus stopped, breathing hard. Judge Marsh's voice was ice. Mr. Holloway, sit down. He sat, shaking with rage. The judge turned to me. Ms. Reeves, do you have documentation proving this relationship? Yes, Your Honor. I handed over another folder. Loan agreements, signed contracts, payment records. Judge Marsh reviewed them in silence. Finally, she looked up. This petition is denied. Ms. Reeves is clearly competent, financially stable, and under no need of conservatorship. Marcus started to protest, but she cut him off. Furthermore, Mr. Holloway, you've wasted this court's time with a frivolous filing motivated entirely by financial greed. I'm sanctioning you $5,000 for abuse of process. Marcus's lawyer winced, but Judge Marsh wasn't finished. Ms. Reeves, based on the evidence presented, it appears Mr. Holloway is in breach of a valid contract. You have the right to pursue debt collection through appropriate legal channels. I intend to, Your Honor. She nodded. Then this court will issue a lien order against Mr. Holloway's assets pending resolution. Marcus stood, face purple. You can't... I just did. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Holloway out. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel struck, and just like that, it was over. The hallway outside the courtroom was chaos. Marcus was shouting at his lawyer, jabbing a finger at the man's chest. You said this would work. You said she couldn't fight it. The lawyer looked exhausted. You didn't tell me she was a CEO. You didn't tell me she owned your debt. You didn't tell me anything truthful. I'm not paying you. You don't have a choice. I'm filing a lien, too. Marcus's face twisted with fury, but before he could respond, he saw me stepping out of the courtroom with my lawyer, Rachel Garrett. He stormed over, his mother trailing behind him, pale and shaking. Nancy, my mother said, voice breaking. Please, don't do this. I stopped, looked at her, really looked at her. Don't do what, Mom? Protect myself? Enforce a legal contract? Or stop enabling a man who just tried to steal my life? He's your stepfather. He's a con artist. Marcus shoved forward. You smug little... Rachel stepped between us. Mr. Holloway, one more word and I'll have a restraining order filed within the hour. He stopped, breathing hard, eyes locked on mine. You think you've won? He hissed. You think this is over? I met his gaze calmly. It is over. You defaulted on a $400,000 loan. The court issued a lien. Your assets are frozen. Your business is finished. I'll fight this. With what money? Silence. You signed a contract, I continued, voice steady. You came into court and slandered me publicly. You triggered every clause I put in place. You did this to yourself. My mother sobbed. Nancy, please, he made mistakes, but he's still family. No, Mom, he's not. I turned and walked away. Rachel followed, heels clicking on the marble floor. That was brutal. It was necessary. What's next? We execute the lien, liquidate his assets, recover the debt. And after that, I paused at the courthouse doors, looking out at the bright afternoon sunlight. After that, I move on. The next 3 weeks moved quickly. Vanguard Holdings formally initiated debt collection proceedings. Marcus's business assets were seized. Office equipment, furniture, client contracts. His luxury car was repossessed. The office lease was terminated. Holloway Consulting Group ceased operations. Marcus tried to fight it. He hired a new lawyer, filed appeals, sent threatening emails. But every legal avenue led to the same conclusion. He had signed a binding contract. He had defaulted. The debt was enforceable. There was nothing he could do. My mother called me once during that time. It was late at night. "Nancy," she said quietly, "I don't know what to do. Marcus he's falling apart. We're losing the house. I don't know where we'll go." I closed my eyes. "Mom, you chose him. Every time he lied, every time he manipulated someone, you stood by him. You enabled him. He's my husband. And I'm your daughter." Silence. "I begged you not to do this," she whispered. "No, you begged me to let him steal from me." "That's not— It is, Mom. That's exactly what you asked." I heard her breath hitch. "So that's it? You're just done with us?" I thought about that, about the years of distance, the missed calls, the awkward holidays. I'm done being the person you sacrifice to keep him happy. If you ever want a real relationship, one where you see me as your daughter, not his resource, call me. But until then, yes, I'm done. I hung up. It hurt. But it also felt like releasing a weight I'd been carrying for years. 2 months later, Marcus declared bankruptcy. The court ordered the sale of his remaining personal assets to satisfy creditors. I recovered about 60% of the loan, enough to make the entire operation profitable once I factored in the office building lease I now controlled. I sold the building to a co-working company for a significant profit. Marcus and my mother moved into a rental apartment across town. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was working as a sales associate at a mid-tier consulting firm. Entry level, no autonomy. He'd lost everything, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just a quiet sense of closure. One afternoon, a few months after everything settled, Rachel and I met for coffee near my office. "How are you doing?" she asked, studying me over her latte. "Honestly, I'm good." "No regrets?" I thought about it. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that he forced my hand, but do I regret protecting myself? No. Rachel smiled. "You know, most people in your position would have just walked away. Cut contact, you went scorched earth." "I didn't go scorched earth," I corrected. "I enforced a contract. He destroyed himself." "Semantics. Maybe." I sipped my coffee. "But here's the thing. If I'd just walked away, he would have found another target, another loan, another person to manipulate. This way, he faced consequences. Real ones." Rachel nodded slowly. "And your mom?" "Still with him, as far as I know." "That must be hard." "It is, but I can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "So, what's next for Nancy Reeves, CEO and strategic mastermind?" I laughed. "Back to work. We just acquired a portfolio of distressed medical supply companies. It's going to be a busy quarter. Always working. That's the job." But it wasn't just the job. It was the life I'd built, carefully, deliberately, on my own terms. No one controlled me. No one dictated my worth. And no one ever would again. 6 months after the conservatorship hearing, I was invited to speak at a financial leadership conference in Chicago. The topic: strategic debt acquisition and ethical enforcement. I almost said no. Public speaking wasn't really my thing, but Rachel convinced me. "Nancy, you've spent your whole career being invisible. Maybe it's time people knew what you're capable of." So I went. The audience was a mix of CFOs, investment managers, and private equity professionals. About 200 people, all looking for insights on distressed asset management. I kept my presentation focused and professional. I talked about identifying undervalued debt, structuring enforceable contracts, and the importance of legal clarity. I didn't mention Marcus, didn't need to, but during the Q&A, someone asked a question that caught me off guard. "Ms. Reeves, you've built your firm on acquiring debt that others have written off, but doesn't that make you just another predator? Someone who profits from other people's failures?" The room went quiet. I looked at the questioner, a man in his 50s, arms crossed, skeptical expression. "That's a fair question," I said slowly. "And here's my answer. I don't create the failures. I respond to them. The companies whose debt I acquire have already failed their creditors, their employees, their obligations. I'm not the villain in that story. I'm the person who ensures that creditors get paid and that contracts mean something. But you profit from it. Yes, because I take on risk. I invest in situations others won't touch. And when I enforce contracts, I do it legally, transparently, and ethically. If that makes me a predator, then so is every bank, every lender, every investor who expects people to honor their agreements. The man considered that, then nodded. Fair enough. After the session, several people approached me. One woman, a hedge fund manager, shook my hand firmly. That was gutsy, she said. Most people in your position dance around the ethics question. You faced it head on. I've had practice, I said with a slight smile. She handed me her card. If you're ever looking for partners on larger acquisitions, call me. I like your style. I pocketed the card. I'll keep that in mind. As I left the conference, I realized something. I wasn't hiding anymore. For years, I'd operated quietly, avoiding attention, keeping a low profile. It was safer that way, less complicated. But Marcus had forced me into the light, and instead of destroying me, it had freed me. I didn't need to hide. I didn't need to apologize for being good at what I did. I just needed to own it. A week later, I got an unexpected email. It was from my mother. Subject: Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Nancy, I know I don't have the right to ask anything of you, but I'm asking anyway. Can we meet? Just coffee, just the two of us. I need to say some things, and I need to hear whatever you need to say. Please. Mom, I read it 3 times. Then I called Rachel. Should I meet her? I asked. Do you want to? I don't know. Then ask yourself this. Will you regret it if you don't? I thought about that, about the years of distance, the unresolved pain. Yeah, I admitted. I probably would. Then meet her, but set boundaries. Make it clear what you will and won't tolerate. So I did. We met at a small cafe near her apartment. She looked older than I remembered, thinner, more tired. Her hands shook slightly as she held her coffee cup. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. I nodded. What did you want to say? She took a breath. I'm sorry. I waited. I'm sorry I chose him over you. I'm sorry I didn't listen when you tried to warn me. I'm sorry I asked you to sacrifice yourself to save him. Her voice cracked. I was scared of being alone again, scared of admitting I'd made a mistake. So I convinced myself you were the one being unreasonable. Tears ran down her face. But you weren't. You were protecting yourself, and I should have protected you too. I felt my throat tighten. Why now? She looked down. Because he's gone. I blinked. What? Marcus, he left me, 3 weeks ago, said he couldn't stand being around someone who reminded him of his failures. She laughed bitterly. Turns out, when the money ran out, so did his love. I didn't know what to say. I don't expect you to forgive me, she continued. I don't even know if I deserve that. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what he was, what I enabled, and I'm sorry. We sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, I spoke. I don't hate you, Mom. I never did. But I can't go back to the way things were. I know. If we're going to rebuild this, it has to be different. You have to see me. Actually see me. Not as a resource, not as a fallback, but as your daughter. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I want that. I really do. Then we start small. Coffee once a month, honest conversations, no Marcus talk unless I bring it up. And if you ever ask me for money, I won't, she said quickly. I swear, I'm working now, part-time at a bookstore. I'm figuring it out. I studied her, saw the sincerity, the exhaustion, the regret. Okay, I said. We'll try. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you. We didn't fix everything that day. Healing doesn't work like that, but it was a start.